afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, the 5,285th meeting of the Rotary Club of Tulsa, Club 2500, District 6110. Holy cow, this is the most distinguished post-New Year's gathering I've attended so far. We've got, I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but Mike Neal is back there in the house from our Chamber of Commerce. My friend Jay Betts is here as well. We're hitting it. We're hitting it off the charts for the first meeting of the year. It's great to be together again as Rotarians united in friendship, service, and fellowship, and a shared commitment to making a difference in our community and beyond. Hope everybody's having a happy new year. So far, I've asked a number of people if they made any New Year's resolutions, and I just had one person who told me they'd made a resolution and they said it was to eat right. I was looking for something colorful and unique, and no, not this year. This was not the year for colorful and unique resolutions, but we've got a great program for you today. Before we begin, we're going to start with an invocation and pledge led by Darren Walkup, followed by guest introductions from Alan Whalen and a memorial resolution by the fashionably attired Karen Keith.
Happy New Year, everybody. Please join me in the invocation. Let us pray silently together, each one of us, according to our individual beliefs. Let us offer thanks for our food, blessings for one another. Let us be a source of hope for those in need and contentment for those who are lonely. Let us give gratitude for opportunity to serve Rotary. Let the feelings of love, kindness, and a well-directed yet gentle spirit always be reflected in our actions. Join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. We have a number of guests. As I read your name with the Rotarian and his or her guest, please stand and remain standing until the end, and that's when we can offer our applause. Brian Jackson has Jay Betts. Jenny Hammock has Ryan Nowlin. Forrest Cameron has Sharon Cameron. Joe Moran has his wife Darcy Moran, and they're celebrating their 49th wedding anniversary. And Eric Cullen has Ozzie Copeland, Jody Moore, and Cassie Clark. Again, welcome, and we'll hope to see you soon.
It's my honor to tell you a little bit more about Pedro, a big member of our club that we lost recently. Pedro Figueroa, he was a great addition to our club. And he may have joined us later in life, but not without energy and enthusiasm. When Pedro lost his wife of more than 53 years of marriage to cancer in 2011, he immigrated to the USA to rebuild his life with the same perseverance as always in service to those in most need. Born in Peru in 1933, Pedro rose through discipline and innate brilliance, earning honors in petroleum engineering, completing an MBA at Michigan State University, and building a respected career marked by integrity. He started working for Creo Tijuana in the late 1950s, then founded his own company, CIGECO, working together with a Venezuelan petroleum company as well as many other international oil companies around the world. Pedro came to us with an extensive background and passionate heart for everything Rotary. Pedro was proud of his lifetime attendance to Rotary International conventions, a true Rotarian with every fiber of his being. And I'm so grateful that before he passed, we honored Pedro for his lifetime of work. Pedro's true legacy lived in his heart and actions to help others. As a member of the Rotary Club, district governor in Caracas, Venezuela, a servant of his church, the Church of the Resurrection, and a member of the Knights of Columbus, Pedro lifted lives with generosity and purpose. At his local church, he organized an annual coat drive for all the children in the congregation. And I had the honor of attending and seeing Pedro in action with his fellow Knights of Columbus. Pedro also contributed to the work of fellow Rotarian Brian Jackson in support of children served by Junior Achievement's BizTown. In his final days, Pedro never stopped thinking about ways to help others. And that's only fitting, since Pedro's life was dedicated to serving his fellow man. Pedro is lovingly survived by his children and his daughters and son-in-laws, and they had 10 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. He leaves us with a legacy of compassion, dignity woven with service, faith, and quiet greatness, a gentle light that will continue to guide all who loved him. May he rest in peace.
Thank you, Alan, Karen, and Darren. Pedro is quite a guy. I appreciate what you had to say about him, Karen. It's very meaningful to me. Got a little Rotary DNA for you today. Kind of this time of the year is sort of a fellowship and get-together time. One of the things that's always made Rotary special, and it's never just about service or meetings or projects. It's also about fellowship and get-togethers. When we look back at Rotary history, especially during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, social events played a central role in club life. One of the most cherished traditions for Rotarians and their families during that time was the annual day-long picnic. This wasn't a show up and throw your blanket on the ground and have a piece of chicken. These were full-scale events that brought everybody in the organization together. There were games, there were contests, there was swimming, there was dancing, there was softball, and plenty of prizes. It was kind of like a Tulsa Chamber of Commerce meeting, Mike. Spouses and children were encouraged to attend, creating shared experiences and lasting memories that strengthened Rotary bonds well beyond the weekly meeting. For example, one of the particularly favorite venues for these events was the Blue Moon Club. The Blue Moon Club, some of you know, was located on North Cincinnati, just at about 36th Street North. It was perched up on a hill there, and it had some beautiful open spaces and a scenic setting by day. The Blue Moon provided the perfect backdrop for fellowship and fun, making it a beloved destination for Rotary celebrations. Now, what you don't know is that the Blue Moon Club that was there had a wholesome daytime environment, but at night, it was a speakeasy. It was a setup club. This is back when Oklahoma was dry, and if you went there and paid a fee, they would give you a setup for the bootleg liquor that you would bring along. How many of you remember Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In TV show in the 70s? Yeah, Rowan and Martin performed at the Blue Moon Club before they became nationally famous from that TV show. The Blue Moon Club was close to the old Skyline Drive-In that was right there on 36 North. The The events also drew big crowds. In 1939, the annual Rotary picnic was hosted at the Oakhurst Country Club for just $1 per person, with an incredible 366 people in attendance, a testament to how important those get-togethers were. Now, many of you may know that the Oakhurst Country Club is still around today as the Oaks Country Club in southwest Tulsa. Oakhurst Country Club went bankrupt in the 40s, and a few years later, some of the members purchased it back and reincarnated it. But they had 366 folks at those picnics. The activities at Oakhurst included golf, horseshoes, a softball game, a treasure hunt for the kids, badminton, ping pong, bingo, and bridge. Truly something for everyone. Bowling was another big activity that Rotarians undertook. From the earliest Rotary archives that we have, there are records of bowling teams, Rotary bowling teams. Members regularly competed in an all-city Rotary Club League at, and some of you may remember this, Huckett's Bowling Academy, located at 230 East 15th Street. Today, 230 East 15th Street is an overpass going to the Broken Arrow Expressway off of Cincinnati. But it was a friendly competition, plenty of laughs, great camaraderie. What you may not know is that that particular Huckett's bowling alley, the Huckett family owned a number of bowling alleys in the area. That one was the first one to have AMF automatic pin spotters. Prior to that, they had pin boys who would be in there, and after you bowled your frames, they would reset the pins for 20 to 25 cents a game. These traditions remind us that Rotary has always understood something important. Service brings us together in purpose, but fellowship keeps us connected. The friendships formed through those shared experiences, whether at a picnic, a bowling alley, or a social gathering, have always been at the heart of Rotary. And speaking of Rotary gatherings, I want to thank Sarah Stokely for hosting our annual Christmas party a couple of weeks ago. She welcomed us into her home, and it was a great evening of fellowship and fun, and a wonderful reminder of the spirit of Rotary fellowship continues today, and we're all a part of that. We've got a side mic announcement now from Mr. Alan Wayland.
Hello again. So each year, the South Central Rotary Youth Exchange Committee holds its annual winter conference in Tulsa. This year it will be held Friday and Saturday, January 30 and 31st. And as part of the program, a majority of the exchange students from the South Central part of the United States will come to Tulsa with the conference attendees. The 90 or so students will need housing on Friday night. For many years, our club has recruited the host families. Many of you have participated in this wonderful activity in the past. The club's Youth Exchange Committee is inviting you to consider hosting again or hosting for the first time. A host family must take at least 2 students, and that's for general safety purposes. And of course, you can always take more than just the 2. I had 10 at my house last year. It was quite fun. We'll also try to honor any requests that you have for specific countries as best as possible. There are a few steps in order to host, and we'll provide you that information once you've signed up. There is information on your table. It's one of the third of a sheet. So please look at that. If you're interested, please contact me, and we hope you'll consider hosting at least 2 students during that Friday night, January 30th into Saturday, January 31st. Thank you.
Ellen does a great job handling these youth exchange projects for us. We really appreciate you, Ellen. Thank you for your work. Every week I stand up here and I get to say I'm introducing another incredible Rotarian of the day, and it's true once again. I didn't realize we had someone among us who had appeared not as a criminal but as a consultant on the Dateline series, and has also given a TED Talk. Eric Cullen is a lifelong Tulsan and a criminal justice professional. After earning a degree in criminal justice from Northeastern State University in 1998, he began his career with Union Pacific Railroad, later founding Cullen and Associates in 2005, where he serves as owner and lead investigator. Eric has worked as an investigator and trial consultant in federal, state, and military courts, contributing to successful trial outcomes and post-conviction relief efforts nationwide. In 2018, he founded the Another Chance Justice Project, helping more than 120 women gain freedom through commutation and assisting with the exoneration of 9 wrongfully convicted individuals. His work has been featured by the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the Guardian. In 2019, Eric was named a Tulsan of the Year. He delivered a TEDx talk on criminal justice reform and was featured on Dateline. Eric serves as chairman of the board for SafeNet Services. He's an investigator with the Tulsa County Cold Case Task Force and is active with the Oklahoma Coalition Against Trafficking as a legislative liaison. He also chairs the Human Trafficking Response Committee for the Rotary Club of Tulsa. Please welcome our Rotarian of the Day, Eric Cullen.
Good afternoon. All of you should have received a Human Trafficking Response Committee challenge coin. If you did not, please raise your hand and someone will bring one to you. Challenge coins originated in the military and law enforcement as symbols of shared mission, accountability, and trust. Quiet reminders that you belong to something larger than yourself and the others that are counting on you. Today, nonprofits and NGOs like Rotary have adopted challenge coins for the very same reason: to recognize commitment, reinforce responsibility, and signify that the work carries the weight. This coin isn't a souvenir, it's a charge. Before we continue, I want to briefly acknowledge our Human Trafficking Response Committee. I'd ask all of you to stand up and be recognized, please. I could not be prouder to work with all of you. Just personally, what this has done for me and the club, frankly, again, I can't thank you enough. Human trafficking is not a distant problem. It is here. It is organized and it moves along our highways and streets every day. That's why the work of Truckers Against Trafficking is so critical, also known as TAT, T-A-T. 2 years ago, Esther Gotch, Jerry Dillon, and I had a conversation about how the Rotary Club of Tulsa and Truckers Against Trafficking could work together to move the needle in real measurable ways. Since then, the collaboration has only grown stronger. It feels especially meaningful that the director of Truckers Against Trafficking, Esther, is right here in Tulsa. Jerry and I found that not to be coincidence. This city continues to position itself as a leader in the fight against human trafficking, and Rotary Club of Tulsa is part of that story. Today's speaker brings national perspective in the fight against human trafficking, and Rotary is part of that story. Today's speaker brings national perspective, operational experience, and a deep commitment to collaboration. Esther Gotch is a seasoned leader with more than a decade of experience in the nonprofit sector, including extensive work in Africa and across North America. Her career began with award-winning research on HIV/AIDS prevention in Ethiopia and includes experience in both grassroots and blue-collar roles, giving her a deep appreciation for the power of everyday people to drive change. Esther currently serves as the Executive Director of Truckers Against Trafficking, TAT, a groundbreaking organization that has trained over 2.3 million transportation industry professionals in anti-trafficking strategies. Under her leadership, TAT has built robust public-private partnerships spanning local, state, and federal agencies, as well as major industry stakeholders across the U.S. and Canada. A recognized expert on human trafficking, Esther has served as Vice Chair of the United States Department of Transportation's Advisory Council on Human Trafficking, spoken at the United Nations Office of Drug and Crime, and testified before the United States Senate. She brings a deep commitment to system change, coalition building, and empowering people to become agents of transformation in their communities. A Tulsa native, she lives in Tulsa with her husband and 3 kids. I'm going to introduce Esther Gotch at this time. Thank you.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Let me make sure this is on and working. Thank you so much for that introduction, Colin, and for you and Jerry's kind invitation for me to be here today to speak with you all. I am excited to share some things with you today on what human trafficking is and how TAT and the trucking, bus, and energy industries are working hand in hand to combat it. If you're a business owner in the room, a community stakeholder, or even just have children in your lives, this presentation is for you. I do want to start off by noting that we will be covering some sensitive topics, and it may be uncomfortable at times, but it will all be handled professionally, and I do believe that it's through those uncomfortable conversations that change happens, and that is required in order for more lives to be saved. So we're going to go through some fast facts about what human trafficking is, what it isn't, what TAT does, and how we work with the business community to drive change in fighting human trafficking. And then I'll leave you with some inspiring, successful case studies and hopefully some very tangible action steps that you can take to get involved. Sound good? All right, let's jump in. All right. So TAT is an international anti-human trafficking organization that utilizes targeted systems change by engaging bystanders in the intervention of human trafficking cases. We do this in order to raise up a mobile army of transportation professionals who can help law enforcement in recognizing and reporting human trafficking all across our country and even across North America, in order to aid in the recovery of victims and the arrest of their perpetrators. So stated simply, TAT stands committed to educate, equip, empower, and mobilize members of key industries and key agencies to combat human trafficking. So in name, of course, we are truckers, and that's certainly where we started. But now, 16 years after our founding, we have scaled dramatically to include the bus industry. That includes school transportation, motor coach and transit, as well as the energy industry, truck stops. And then we also work comprehensively with not just the private sector, but also the public sector. So we partner with law enforcement and government agencies at the local, state, federal, and tribal levels. And we have partnered with law enforcement in all 50 states, ensuring that they are trained on human trafficking and employing a victim-centered approach in their interactions with victims. We also have expanded our training to include multiple sectors within some of those broader categories, so local drivers or in-home delivery professionals. We have training specific for those professionals as well. So together, these programs have increased reports of trafficking, arrests, prosecution, and recovery of victims. But before we dive into TAT, I really want to level set here on what human trafficking is, and draw some clear distinctions between what you may have seen on TV or in movies and how this crime actually shows up in our communities. So simply defined, human trafficking is the exploitation of human beings through force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of either commercial sex, so think pornography, stripping, brothels, prostitution, and most typically pimps, or labor trafficking, so think sweatshops, agricultural fields, domestic servitude, workers who are being forced to work long, hard hours with little to no pay. And all of this is being driven by a trafficker, a third party, a victimizer, someone who is in control and making a profit off someone else's back. And victims often find themselves in situations that they literally cannot get out of. This is indeed modern-day slavery. Now, oftentimes when I talk about human trafficking, the crime of human smuggling comes up. These two terms are often incorrectly used interchangeably, but they're actually two distinct crimes. So smuggling is a crime against a country's immigration law. It's when someone enters a country they do not have permission to be in, usually for a large fee. Whereas human trafficking is a crime against a person, and movement is not required. So an individual can be trafficked out of a room in their own home, whereas with smuggling, there has to be that transportation, including a border. So sometimes the best way to understand a subject is to dispel some of the myths that surround it. We like to actually just flip that and call them truths. Let's talk about what's true. So truth number one is that people often think that slavery was abolished with the Civil War and that it just doesn't happen anymore. But the following statistics prove that statement false. There are an estimated 50 million victims of modern-day slavery around the world. This includes thousands of boys, girls, women, and men right here in the United States. Human trafficking generates a shocking $236 billion annually in illegal profits for their traffickers. So this is a crime of greed. If traffickers weren't making these types of profits, they would move on to another criminal enterprise. And human trafficking is actually now second only to the drug trade. You may have heard the statement, a drug you can only sell once, a human being you can sell over and over and over again. So you can see why there's that increase. Now we'll talk about this a little bit, but of course, in order for there to be a market, there has to be a demand for these services, right? Human trafficking has been reported in all 50 states, including DC. Thousands of children are at risk of being prostituted and exploited in the United States each year. This is a homegrown problem. And victims of human trafficking are disproportionately women of girls of color. And so you're looking at populations that already have some kind of vulnerability that are often the targets for those traffickers. All right, truth number two, even though you may have a preconceived idea of what a trafficker or a pimp might look like, it's important to know that the reality is a trafficker can be anyone. We need to remember that just as this crime knows no gender, racial, or socioeconomic bounds when it comes to who could be victims of human trafficking, the same is true of the traffickers. You have here a military veteran, a former firefighter. You even have a 8th grade math teacher out of Texas. Traffickers come from all types of background and can even be family members. And while no one wants to think that this is something that is happening in their own backyard, the reality just doesn't bear that out. Right here in Oklahoma, in 2024, there were 125 cases involving 210 victims of human trafficking. Since 2007, the National Human Trafficking Hotline has identified over 1,000 cases involving over 2,500 victims in Oklahoma. And that is just one slice of the data pie. Those are only cases that are going through the national hotline, whereas we know that most folks call local law enforcement or 911 when there is a crime happening. And so just a quick Google search reveals the reality. And some of you have probably seen some of these cases, even recently, happening right here in Tulsa and surrounding areas. This is a crime that shows up at our doorstep. So let's take a look at what this looks like in the commercial vehicle industry. So in January of 2015, an RV pulled into a truck stop in Virginia. Police were soon called to the scene. When they arrived and after they interviewed the occupants of the vehicle, the horrific story made headlines. A young woman, about 20 years old, had been lured onto a road trip with these two acquaintances. Quickly after they had her, they began to beat her, rape her. They burned her all over her body using instruments that they were heating on the RV stove. That was their form of branding her. They cut slashes in her feet and told her that if she tried to run or tell anyone, that they knew where her family lived. She was being sold by these two, Alder Hadza and Laura Sorensen, through sex ads on Craigslist where men were purchasing her and then arriving to the RV to rape her. Had that call not been made that brought law enforcement out to that truck stop that day, doctors said that she likely would have died within the next few days from the malnutrition and the torture that she was subjected to. Well, that call was made by a professional truck driver, Kevin Kimmel, who recognized something was off, something was wrong, and instead of turning a blind eye, he picked up the phone. To this day, that young woman calls Kevin her guardian angel, but he calls himself a trucker against trafficking. So in response to these realities, Truckers Against Trafficking recognized that the transportation industry, through their sheer numbers, extensive travel, and the very nature of their jobs, could provide that extra set of eyes and ears to law enforcement in helping to recognize and report human trafficking, especially since in the course of their everyday jobs, there are natural intersections of potential victims with their industry. So that could be at a truck stop, it could be at a bus station, it could be at a bus terminal where a runaway youth is trying to get a safe ride somewhere. Once you start to think about all the transportation professionals that keep our communities moving forward, and you overlay the reality of human trafficking, that victims are moving throughout their day, they're hiding in plain sight, it becomes a critical force that needs to know what the signs are and how to respond. The reality is that traffickers will take their victims wherever they think they can make money, and they're counting on everyone thinking that the person being sold is out there on their own. But what if all drivers knew what to look for and immediately report it? Imagine how many lives might be saved, just like that young woman. And so that is our goal at TAT. So how we do that, first and foremost, is by saturating these industries with free, readily available, industry-specific training materials. The cornerstone of our training is a short documentary-style training video specific for that industry, what the crime looks like for those professionals, how it intersects with human trafficking, and what they need to do to respond, as well as a wallet card that just gives simple red flag indicators to keep in your pocket, and when you come across something, for those drivers to know how to report it. In addition to those, the training video and the wallet card, of course, we have a whole host of other on-ramps for companies to get more involved in this. We have posters, wallet cards, window decals, toolkits, and I'll share a few more specifics in a few minutes. But basically, we make it as easy as possible for businesses and companies to add training so that all their employees are aware of human trafficking and know how to respond. I'm going to show you a quick trailer of our over-the-road trucking training video. This is one of our core training videos to just give you a taste of what that training experience is like. Whoop. Where's my guy? I think he's going to get it here in a sec. Are you able to push play on your end? There you go. Can you turn it up?
Radio on, and the guy comes on the radio, hey, anybody want any underage girls?
This one, she didn't even look 13, 14 years old. She had a little mini skirt on.
A 14-year-old, 15-year-old is not doing this on their own accord.
You have to wonder who's behind them.
They have a pimp or whatever you want to call them, trafficker.
Sex trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery. It's when traffickers are using force, fraud, or coercion to compel an individual to engage in commercial sex. And traffickers are not only exploiting the victims, but they're also exploiting these locations. Everything from commercial front brothels, to residential brothels, to hotels and motels, to truck stops, to street-based prostitution. A lot of exploitation is happening online. That's where a lot of the connections are being made.
Nobody wakes up and says, gosh, I'd really like to sell myself on the streets today. That is something that is being directed by the victimizer, by the trafficker.
Here we are, you know, I'm 15 years old, my cousin is 14, and we're here at a truck stop, you know, being forced to work it, you know, and we're young girls, terrified out of our minds.
The trucking industry is in a unique position because they actually will be in locations that pimps will bring in their victims.
Truckers Against Trafficking is a grassroots organization. It comes alongside the trucking industry, recognizing that they're in places that most people aren't, and that they can recognize potential victims of human trafficking more than the rest of us.
You're talking about a really highly trained group of individuals that are seeing trafficking, they know where to report it, they're reporting it right away, and as a result, we have seen countless victims who've been recovered by law enforcement.
When we talk about who's driving change in this area, we have to talk about the trucking industry.
Thank God what saved me was that truck driver that called in and said, hey, you know, this is whoever at the truck stop, you know, and we have some girls out here that look pretty young.
Oh, that trucker. The one that made it for cop. Boy, I owe him a lot. And if he ever sees this, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I am a team truck driver with my husband, Bob.
Been a 16-year veteran of over-the-road truck driving.
I've been driving for 26 years.
And I am a trucker against trafficking.
And I'm a trucker against trafficking.
I'm a trucker against traffic.
And I am a trucker against trafficking.
All right, so as I said, that's for our trucking, but we have similar training videos for each of the industry sectors that we work with. So a large swath of the business community has that type of specified training for them. Those drivers, when they watch the video, they see themselves in it, and they see those individuals that they maybe have ignored in the past and now understand what might be going on. So because Oklahoma is a large energy state, I wanted to spend just a few minutes focusing on the energy sector specifically, if there are those in the room that represents. So there are several points of intersection between human trafficking and the energy industry. from project locations where workers are temporarily housed for the duration of the job to complex supply chains of goods and services, the intersections with trucking and truck stops, energy employees may come in contact with victims of both labor and sex trafficking, and this is why they need to be trained. Traffickers tend to focus on places where they hope to find large groups of men. So this could be conferences, events, or a work camp, even the businesses surrounding project locations. They're actively seeking opportunities to exploit victims for profit, and they are paying attention when energy companies launch new operations or relocate workers. They do want to find men who are away from home, with time on their hands and money to spend. This makes the energy industry a target, but it also makes the energy industry a critical player in helping to stop this. And just as energy companies are committed to the safe execution of every project they work on, they're equally committed to the safety and health of the people in the community where they live and work. Knowing the signs of human trafficking and being empowered to report those red flags is just one more way they can help keep those communities safe. And so our energy program includes a lot of the sampling of the same materials, which I have brought today if anybody wants to look at them. It has a training video, a window decal, wallet card, hard hat sticker, a safety moment facilitation guide, and we also have an app that can keep those red flags readily at your fingertips. All our training resources are there, and even the opportunity to directly report an incident. I thought you might be interested to see some of our current energy partners, and you may recognize some of those logos. You may also note some Oklahoma companies that may not be on there, and so my hope is that today we can change that. Beyond just energy, TAT has been working in Oklahoma since 2019, although the last 2 years we are making a lot more concerted effort here in our state because of partners who are excited and motivated to move things forward. So in 2019, we helped pass legislation that makes TAT's anti-trafficking training required before receiving a CDL license at the school level. Also, we work with Highway Patrol and have trained them, and they've adopted the entirety of our Iowa motor vehicle enforcement model, which basically means that at way stations and rest areas across the state, you will see TAT materials. They've passed out materials at truck stops and bus terminals in the state, and every CDL issuance or renewal is accompanied with a TAT wallet card, and TAT training is part of mandatory safety meetings. So these are some of those infrastructure pieces that we like to put in place at the state level. In the transit sector, TAT has presented at the National Transportation and Indian Country Conference. So many of our tribal transit providers in the state are using TAT's training. And then Embark, the Oklahoma City Transit Agency, has trained all their employees, and I'll share a successful case study from them in just a moment. So the good news of all of this is that it's working. TAT has trained over 2.4 million industry professionals, and drivers alone have now made thousands of calls into the national hotline and local law enforcement, resulting in hundreds of cases of victims being recovered and arrests of perpetrators. And at the end of the day, all of this training and infrastructure work leads to those types of numbers and cases like the following. Like the 2 truck stop employees on the right side of your screen who helped close out a 2-month investigation of 3 traffickers who were trafficking over 21 victims online and on the streets because they were paying attention to what was happening in the hotel parking lot across from their truck stop in Jessup, Maryland. Or TAT-trained driver Arian Taylor to the right of them, who helped a young woman get back safely home after she was left and abandoned in the middle of nowhere at a truck stop because she refused to be prostituted by a friend's older boyfriend on their road trip. Arian had the TAT decals on the cabs of his windows that say, "Do you need help?" And she found safety there. He was able to call the hotline, help get her a safe room and a safe ride back to her family the next day. Or the team at Lakefront Bus Lines who jumped into action when a female passenger on one of their buses told the driver she was being held against her will by another male passenger on that same bus. Because of the actions of that driver and his colleagues, the suspect was arrested, the victim was recovered, and that individual is on trial for trafficking. Or how about Kevin Kimmel, the professional driver who I mentioned at the start of the presentation, who ended 2 weeks of torture for that young woman, and also whose testimony helped ensure that Laura Sorensen and Alder Hadza are serving 40 and 41 years respectively in federal prison. This is what it's all about. This is TAT's work in action. I'm short on time, so I'm going to go quickly. Shortly after Embark Transit in Oklahoma City trained their employees, they had an incident with a young woman who came on one of their buses, distressed, disheveled, fearful, said someone was after her, and indicated that she was a victim of sex trafficking. And because of their training and the partnerships they had developed, they were able to directly get her to a local service provider and coordinate safe passage for her with law enforcement. I did want to share, before I close out, how we are able to do this work, and it's through our partnerships with companies and individuals in the trucking, bus, and energy industries who help move this work forward. We are incredibly grateful for those who offer their time, experience, or influence in a myriad of ways to move the needle on this work, whether it's training their own employees, encouraging another key industry stakeholder to get involved, or working with TAT to amplify the message. And it's not just companies, but also individuals who have partnered with us, who have stepped up to go beyond, beyond just the bottom line and continue to make an impact. So my hope is that at this point, you are asking yourselves how you too can join this mobile army of abolitionists who are dismantling human trafficking networks across North America. If you are, here's what I would ask you to consider in the next 3 months. If you're an organization in the energy, trucking, truck stop, bus, or any other transportation adjacent industry, and I'll also add, or in the public sector in government agencies, work with TAT to get all your employees trained. Secondly, look at the policies that you have at your company or organization. And if they do not specifically prohibit the use of company time or work product to purchase commercial sex, work with TAT. We have sample language that you can utilize within your companies that helps enforce a zero tolerance policy and reduce demand from the business side of things. You could support this work through becoming a distribution channel of awareness materials, maybe inviting TAT to come speak at an event with some of our key audiences, or introducing us to others who can amplify this message, or considering financial support. And then lastly, we always want to close with asking you to take this message home to your own dinner tables. The children in our lives do need to know about this crime and how it might affect them and how to keep them safe. I believe that human trafficking is one of the greatest human rights violation of our time. It is modern day slavery, and while the majority of people, I think, want to make an impact with their lives, to go beyond just the bottom line and ensure their careers affect lasting change for good, it's not a reality for everyone, but it can be for you. I hope that each one of you will see an intersection in a way that you can too join this cause and help move this forward. The reality is that TAT is working. The trucking, bus, and energy industries are rallying behind this movement, and we all have an opportunity to ensure that more lives will be saved. And with that, I think pretty close on time, so I am happy to take questions for a few minutes. Yeah?
Is there a typical profile of a trafficker?
So he asked if there's a typical profile of a trafficker. No, like I said, I mean, you have everything from family members trafficking children or relatives, for drug money or whatever it may be, to pretty extensive organized criminal enterprises, and everything in between from, street gangs, running girls, all types. So I would not say there's a typical profile. Yes?
Are you working with any local school districts? Because this is something that happens to a lot of our students in the Tulsa area.
Yeah, great question. Yes. So we work with school districts all over the country. I would have to check. I don't believe we're working with any in Tulsa, so that would be a great opening. And we have an easy one-pager that you can email to your school district leaders on how to implement the TAT training for their bus drivers. Thank you. Yes?
What about airports and seaports? Like, for example, I was in Salt Lake City Airport a few years ago, and typically something similar was around the bathroom.
Yep.
Is that with that? Is there a partnership?
Yeah, so we don't work with the airports or the ports very extensively, mostly because there's other organizations that are really focused on that, and there was legislation passed mandating the posting in airports, so that's why you see them all over the place. So we know organizations that are working well there, but that's not one of our focuses.
And I've seen them in the truck stops.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Good. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Thank you for the work that you do. Can you share any statistics about Oklahoma compared to other states?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm going to punt on that one a little bit in saying that data and statistics around these cases are really difficult. There's the national hotline that collects data state by state, which is where I got some of those statistics. So on Polaris is the organization that used to run the national hotline. They have state by state reports. That's a good place to find that. What I always say to that question of, are we a hot spot? Is it worse here? Is that, after 10 years of working in this space and traveling all over the country and internationally, it is in every community. I don't think there's places that have the corner on this. And a lot of the data actually reveals where there's more awareness happening because you actually have people calling and reporting cases. So that's, again, when you see some of those heat maps, yes, it may be there's more activity, or maybe there's just a lot more awareness in those communities. Yes?
You mentioned a boyfriend and one victim.
Mm-hmm.
Does that boyfriend on his own then do what? Go online? How does he connect up to sell this victim?
The case study where the girl was left at the truck stop. So that was a situation where she was traveling what she thought was on a road trip with a friend and her friend's boyfriend. The boyfriend at one point turns to her and says, well, we need some more money, and this is how we're going to get it. And when she said, no, thank you, I don't want to be prostituted, that's when she was then kicked out of the car and left. Does that make sense?
If he didn't, how would he go online or whatever to
Oh.
make money off?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that traffickers are going to sell victims. Online is, very much one of the most common ways. But like in communities, it can sometimes be through networks and relationships. Buyers of commercial sex are on a lot of these platforms looking for individuals to purchase.
You were very experienced internationally, and Rotary's in 32,000 clubs all over the world. Do you think there's any club that doesn't have some issue surrounding the members of that club that shouldn't be addressed as you've discussed it today? If so, do you know of any other organization other than Rotary that's not political, not religious, that could be utilized in conjunction with TAG about what's happening in these countries? So it's a global question.
Yeah.
And I already know your answer, but I want everybody else to hear it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't believe that there are communities where this doesn't touch them. Like I said, wherever you have a demand for cheap labor or commercial sex, you will have human trafficking, and that's why those global numbers are so huge. So, that's the simple answer. And as far as other organizations like Rotary, I mean, I'm not, I don't have anything off the top of my head that I could think of.
Thank you, Esther.
Anything else? Thank you.
A note, January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and January 11th is Human Trafficking Awareness Day. So keep that in mind. Esther, Eric, Jerry, and our Anti-Human Trafficking Committee, we're grateful for your work. We're glad that you're a part of the Rotary Club of Tulsa. I want to thank Channel 2, Channel 8, and Fox 23 for being here today to catch this important message and transmit it to our community. Thank you for coming, gentlemen. We've got a book today that we're going to give to our partners in education school, Celia Clinton Elementary. This week's book is Feliz New Year, Ava Gabriel. We've got some more outstanding programs coming up for you in January. On the 14th, we've got Cameron Walker of Habitat for Humanity. January 21st, Dimitri Wolfson. January 28th, Joey Wignaraja. So we've got more outstanding programs coming your way. Please plan to attend those meetings. We do have a committee meeting today after this meeting. Fittingly, it's the Anti-Human Trafficking, or the Human Trafficking Response Committee, that'll meet in room 231. If you've been inspired by Esther's message, I hope you will drop by that meeting to work with them. We want to take a moment to thank our Rotary sponsors for their continued support of our club. Their dollars help strengthen the club and help us strive. If you look at your table in the center, there's a card displaying the name of our sponsors. Please consider doing business with fellow Rotarians first. Partnership with our sponsors keeps our club strong. First meeting after the new year. I'm glad that y'all made time to be here with us today. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. We stand adjourned.